I still remember the sound of the door creaking open, slow, hesitant, but definitely not a knock. I was standing there in the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, just out of the shower. For a second, I thought maybe I'd imagined it, but when I turned my head, he was already in the doorway, my stepson. His eyes widened the moment he realized, but neither of us said a word. I stood there frozen, and he just stood there too, as if the world had paused. It all happened so fast, but that moment felt like it stretched forever. I didn't yell, I didn't move, I didn't even speak. I just looked at him, and he looked back, confused, shocked, maybe even scared. He muttered something under his breath, turned around quickly, and shut the door behind him. And still, I said nothing. I didn't know what to feel. Embarrassed, angry, worried. He wasn't a kid anymore. He was 17, almost an adult. And ever since I married his father 2 years ago, we had always kept a respectful distance. But lately, something had shifted. He'd been quieter around me, more careful, watching me when he thought I wouldn't notice. And I'd noticed. I told myself it was just teenage awkwardness, that I was overthinking, but now I wasn't so sure. That night, everything changed. It wasn't just about the bathroom door anymore. It was about everything unspoken between us, the tension, the silence, and the questions we were both too afraid to ask. And the worst part? When I told his father what happened, he didn't believe me. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. What happened the next day, I never saw coming. The next morning, the house felt heavier than usual. There was silence at breakfast, the kind that stretches just a little too long between sips of coffee and clinks of forks. He didn't come down. His dad, my husband, asked if he was feeling okay. I just shrugged. Probably tired, I said. I didn't mention the night before. I didn't know how to. What would I even say? The truth is, our little family was already walking on thin ice. Marrying someone with a teenage son wasn't easy. I tried, really tried, to be respectful of his space, never push too hard, never pretend to be his mom. But still, things never felt completely settled. His dad worked late most nights, and it was usually just the two of us at home. We'd gotten into a routine, quiet dinners, small talk, passing each other in the hallway. Nothing ever crossed a line, until that moment in the bathroom. I thought maybe it was just an accident, a misunderstanding. But when I heard footsteps outside my door again that night, quiet, lingering, my heart dropped. He didn't knock. He didn't come in either, just stood there for a few seconds, then walked away. The next day, I tried to talk to him. I knocked gently on his door, but there was no answer. I opened it a little and found his room empty, perfectly clean. Too clean. His phone was gone, his shoes missing, and a note sat on his desk. No name, no goodbye, just 4 words. I know you saw. I stared at it, my hands shaking. What did he mean? Was it about me? Was it about something else entirely? My head raced with questions I didn't have answers to. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't just about a door or a towel or an awkward mistake. Something was wrong, really wrong. And I had a feeling this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. Or the last. I stood there holding that note for what felt like hours. I know you saw. 4 words, but they echoed through my head over and over again. What was he talking about? What did I see? The bathroom? Or was there something else? I tried to remember every little thing from the last few weeks. Had I noticed anything strange? Had I walked in on something I didn't understand at the time? Later that day, my husband called from work. He sounded annoyed, said his son wasn't answering his phone. I told him he wasn't home and that I found a note. I didn't mention what it said. I didn't know how to explain it without opening a door I wasn't ready to open. He sighed and said, "He's probably just being dramatic again. He always runs off when things get hard." Later that day, my husband called from work. He sounded annoyed, said his son wasn't answering his phone. I told him he wasn't home and that I found a note. I didn't mention what it said. I didn't know how to explain it without opening a door I wasn't ready to open. He sighed and said, "He's probably just being dramatic again. He always runs off when things get hard." That sentence stuck with me. Again. How many times had this happened before? My husband never talked much about his son's past, only that it was complicated. His ex-wife left suddenly when their son was young, and ever since he'd been moody. I always thought it was just a phase, but now I was starting to think there were things I hadn't been told, things his father was ignoring. I searched his room for anything, maybe a journal, a message, something that made sense of all this. In the bottom drawer, I found a photo of a girl, not me, someone younger, high school age. Behind the photo, there was a printout, a report card with a different name at the top. I didn't recognize it. The dates were from last year, from a school 2 towns over. It didn't make sense. Why would he have someone else's school records hidden in his drawer? I started to wonder if he was hiding more than just emotions. Was he involved with someone he shouldn't be? Was he being blackmailed? Or worse, was he hiding from something he did? My thoughts were spiraling, and I was beginning to feel like I didn't know the boy living in this house at all. I had no idea where he'd gone, what he meant by that note, or why the air in our home had suddenly turned so cold. But one thing was certain. Whatever was coming next, it had already started. By the 3rd day, I was barely sleeping. I kept checking my phone, waiting for any sign that he was okay. A text, a call, something. But there was nothing. My husband was growing more impatient by the hour, calling friends, checking with neighbors, even visiting his old school. Still, no one had seen him. The silence was starting to feel like a message of its own. I couldn't stop thinking about the photo I found in his drawer. The girl in it looked familiar, like someone I'd seen in passing. After hours of scrolling through local news and school websites, I found her name, Amanda Reyes, a missing girl, reported over 9 months ago from a high school just 2 towns away. 17, honors student, last seen after martial arts practice. Martial arts. My stepson had joined a dojo earlier this year, right after we moved. I never thought much of it. He said it helped him clear his mind, stay focused. He was quiet about it, though, never inviting us to visit or see him compete. And now I was starting to understand why. The next day, while my husband was out searching again, I drove to the dojo myself. It was a small, old building tucked behind a strip mall. When I walked in, a woman behind the desk looked up and smiled. "You here for beginner's registration?" she asked. I shook my head and asked if my stepson still trained there. She frowned. "He stopped coming a couple weeks ago, said he was moving." "Why?" I didn't know what to say. I thanked her and turned to leave, but she stopped me. "He was close with a girl here," she said softly. "Amanda. You probably heard about her. He took it hard when she disappeared." My heart dropped. I hadn't told anyone what I found, and now I was beginning to feel like I'd stepped into something far more dangerous than a family misunderstanding. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching the house. I know it sounds paranoid, but around midnight, I heard a soft tapping on the back window. I froze, didn't open the blinds, didn't breathe, just listened. Nothing followed. No knock, no voice, just stillness. Then the next morning, I found another note slipped under the door. No envelope, just folded paper. 5 words this time. "You weren't supposed to know." My hands shook as I read it. Was he warning me? Threatening me? Or was it something else? Guilt? Fear? I didn't know who to trust anymore, not even my husband, who still thought this was just some teenage rebellion. He didn't know about Amanda. He didn't know about the picture, the school records, or the late-night visit. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep this secret to myself. Because deep down, I had a horrible feeling the truth was closer than I wanted it to be. Just when I thought I had reached the edge of what I could handle, the story took a turn I never saw coming. The next day, as I was sorting through some old boxes in the garage, I found a dusty, locked box that I hadn't noticed before. It had no label, no key in sight, just a small, faded sticker with a date from 5 years ago. Curiosity got the better of me, and after some searching, I finally found a key taped underneath the workbench. Inside the box were letters, old photos, and a journal. As I flipped through the pages, my breath caught. The handwriting was my husband's, but what I read wasn't what I expected. There were entries about a secret he kept from his son, something that happened before I even met them. An accident, a promise, and a fear that seemed to have haunted him ever since. One letter, dated shortly after his son's mother left, mentioned a girl, Amanda, the same Amanda Reyes. But this time, it wasn't just about a missing student. It hinted at something darker, threats, debts, and a warning that someone was watching their family. My husband had written about feeling powerless, about making a deal to keep his son safe. I felt like the ground was slipping beneath me. Was Amanda's disappearance connected to my stepson? Or worse, was my husband hiding more than just old regrets? Later that evening, I confronted him. I told him about the box, the letters, the journal. He looked at me with tired eyes, and for the first time, he didn't deny it. He admitted there were things he hadn't told me, things he was too afraid to face again. He said the dojo wasn't just a place to train, it was where his son had found people who weren't always friendly, where debts and secrets tangled with punches and kicks. But before he could say more, the power in the house flickered and went out. The silence that followed was heavy. In the dark, I heard a soft thud downstairs, like something falling. My heart pounded as I grabbed a flashlight and slowly made my way toward the noise. In the living room, the front door was wide open, swinging slightly in the night breeze. There were muddy footprints on the floor, leading toward the stairs. My mind raced. Had someone broken in? Was it connected to Amanda? To the threats my husband had mentioned? Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you'll lose everything." I stood frozen, flashlight trembling in my hand. The secrets I'd uncovered were no longer just past memories. They were alive, dangerous, and closing in fast. And the one thing I knew for sure was this: if I didn't find the truth soon, we might not have a family left to protect. The night stretched on, every shadow in the house feeling like it was watching me. I followed the muddy footprints to the basement door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. With trembling hands, I opened the door, flashlight cutting through the darkness. There, sitting on the bottom step, was my stepson. His eyes were red, tired, but there was something in his gaze, a mixture of relief and fear. "I didn't want you to find out like this," he whispered. "I was trying to protect you." For the first time, he started to talk. About Amanda, about the debts his father had hidden, and about the people who had been threatening our family. Amanda had uncovered something dangerous, something about the dojo that wasn't just about martial arts. It was a front for people involved in illegal activities, and Amanda had been too close to the truth. My stepson had tried to warn her, but when she disappeared, he realized they were both targets. The note, the silence, the running away. It had all been about fear and trying to keep us safe. My husband joined us soon after, exhausted but determined. He explained everything: the deal he'd made to keep his son safe, the threats he'd received, and how he'd tried to shield us from the worst. It was messy, painful, and full of mistakes, but we finally understood what we were up against. Just as we thought the worst was behind us, there was a sudden knock at the door. This time it wasn't hesitant or careless, it was deliberate. My husband opened it to find a woman standing there, soaked from the rain, eyes sharp and unreadable. "I'm Amanda," she said quietly. "I'm not missing." She had faked her disappearance to escape the dangerous people controlling the dojo. She had been hiding, gathering evidence, and now she was ready to bring everything to light. But it meant dragging our family back into the danger. We looked at each other, knowing life would never be the same. The secrets had surfaced, but the fight was only just beginning. Amanda's arrival changed everything. She explained how she had to disappear to stay safe and how she'd been working with the police, gathering proof against the people behind the dojo's dark side. My stepson had been protecting her from afar, but when the threats grew worse, he felt trapped and alone. Now, with her back, there was hope, but also danger. We decided to cooperate with the authorities. My husband's old contacts helped us navigate the next steps, and slowly, the truth started to come out. The dojo was shut down, and those responsible were arrested. Amanda's bravery had saved not only herself, but also our family from further harm. In the weeks that followed, things began to settle. My stepson, once distant and scared, started opening up more. We attended family therapy, working through the fears and misunderstandings that had built walls between us. The tension that had hung over the house finally began to lift. Looking back, I realized how much silence and secrets had almost destroyed us. The note, the locked box, the hidden past, they were all pieces of a puzzle we hadn't known we were solving. Sometimes family isn't about perfect moments or easy days. It's about facing the hard truths together and choosing to stay. Our story wasn't just about fear or mystery. It was about trust, courage, and the willingness to fight for each other even when the path is unclear. The scars would remain, but they reminded us of what we survived and what we were still fighting for. I never expected that one moment in the bathroom would lead to all this. But sometimes, the smallest things uncover the biggest secrets, and sometimes staying silent isn't the answer. In the end, we found strength in the truth and a family ready to face whatever comes next, together. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more real-life inspired stories that keep you on the edge. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments below.